things have been worse since Final Battle. I am trying to get through today for you guys, but I cannot promise anything.
Yeah, when you fight through injury, man, it naturally it becomes nagging to where you're basically forced to take some time off. I mean, granted the fact some people can push through it, but if it becomes nagging enough, like your body's gonna let you know, like, nah, bro, you gotta sit down. Hey yo, what's happening, people? It's your boy Blaze here, back to you with another one here for Venomous Reactions, and today we're gonna be taking an interesting look at an intriguing scenario: the downfall of Keith Lee in AEW. I ain't gonna hold you. You know, ever since him leaving WWE and him becoming All Elite, I was actually amped up to see what he would be capable of in the All Elite brand. But nowadays, the hype has died down. It really has. I mean, if you could tell from him being in the days of NXT and even his brief stint on the main roster, the potential was there. But you know, mountain injuries and previous ailments, it can halt your momentum and halt your potential. So we're gonna see what this video has to say about Keith Lee being at AEW and how it became the downfall. So without further ado, let's get into it.
In 2021, Keith Lee would depart the WWE and join AEW shortly after, and this was seen as a huge fumble at the time, as there was a period of time where Keith Lee was insanely over with the fans in WWE. But him signing with AEW had people excited, and he was seen as a huge get for AEW. But fast forward to August 2024, and I think it's safe to say that Keith Lee's AEW run has been quite underwhelming. It's sad to say, but we'll explain all the reasons why in today's video, so like the video, subscribe, and let's talk about Keith Lee in AEW.
Let's talk about it.
Before we do get to Keith Lee's AEW run, let's first talk about how his downfall in the WWE came to be. On May 1st, 2018, he officially signed to the WWE and went to NXT, and 2019 would be his star-making year though, and this came after his star-making performance at Survivor Series, where he was part of the Brand Warfare tag match, where he was the final person to be eliminated and got insanely over from this performance.
Yeah, he was insanely over in that Survivor Series match. Like, things he would do, not only in that match, but just in his brief run, especially in NXT and his brief run on the main roster. Yo, Keith Lee was over, and he was not named Limitless for no reason, because he is known to shatter limits each and every time he was in the ring. But this Survivor Series match, that was the starting point from my view to where Keith Lee really began to shine. But yeah, they fumbled him heavy.
Performance. The WWE would take advantage of his overness in 2020 as he would become double champion of NXT that year, winning both the World and North American titles and holding them simultaneously. After losing both belts, he was called up to the main roster and he would have a slow start, but by the end of the year and start of 2021, he would start getting involved in title programs. But in February 2021, he would suddenly disappear and be gone from TV for 5 months, and this was due to COVID-19 and heart inflammation, which ended up being a near-death experience for Keith Lee. When he came back, it was apparent that WWE had no idea what to do with him, and that was evident when Bearcat Keith Lee was introduced. And Keith Lee was ultimately...
I still cringe at this name. Like, I get the purpose behind the name change, you know, due to the inspiration of the former wrestler known as Bearcat, but this really did not help Keith Lee in any stretch of the imagination. In fact, in my view, it just made things worse. It made things worse, and he did not get any type of buzz. But yeah, man, But yeah, him being out, due to COVID-19 and currently fighting a heart inflammation, man, especially when it's life-threatening, it's no joke.
Released from the WWE on November 4th, 2021 as part of COVID budget cuts, with many fans looking at it as a fumble from WWE's part, and his WWE run overall went down as a mixed bag, as his run in NXT was very good, but his main roster run was uneventful and uninspiring. And in a move that everyone could see coming from a million miles away, he would debut and sign for AEW, debuting on the February 9th, 2022 episode of AEW Dynamite. Fans were excited to see what he could do in AEW and how this run and booking would compare to how it was in the WWE. His first big match for AEW was at that year's Face of the Revolution ladder match, which was won by Wardlow, but it was a nice start for Keith Lee in AEW, and after this he would form a tag team with Swerve Strickland, and they teamed together under the name of Swerve in Our Glory, which was just a terrible tag team name. But despite
low-key it was terrible, but you couldn't come up with anything better. I mean, it would have been better if they did not have an official tag team name, but Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee, awesome tag team. The name, not so much.
By being a thrown together tag team, Swerve in Our Glory would be successful, as they would end up winning the AEW World Tag Team Championships, winning them at that summer's Fyter Fest Dynamite special. They would defend the belts against the likes of the Lucha Bros and the Gun Club, and they'd begin feuding with the Acclaimed over the belts, having their first match with them for the belts at All Out, which they would win and successfully defend their belts, but this match was highly acclaimed, pardon the pun, and was a match of the year contender. They would have a rematch at Grand Slam, which the Acclaimed would win, and they would win the tag titles themselves, taking the belts off Swerve and Keith, as they would fail to regain them at Full Gear. It's quite obvious that Swerve in Our Glory were probably meant to hold the titles for a little while longer, but an audible was called and the Acclaimed were booked to win the titles, as they got so over off the back of the match at All Out. But overall, a nice start to life in AEW for Keith Lee, as the rest of the year saw Swerve in Our Glory teasing a breakup, which would come at the end of the year when Swerve Strickland formed the Mogul Affiliates, and now Keith Lee was on his own again, and it was time to see where he could go as a single star in AEW. But 2023 would actually end up being a really bland year for Keith Lee in AEW. His wrestling appearances became more sporadic as the year went on. AEW seemingly had no idea what to do with him and were throwing random shit at him and seeing what sticks, like when he started teaming with Dustin Rhodes for some reason. They were called Naturally Limitless, I believe. I bet you completely forgot that even happened and it was only last year. Him and Swerve also spent the entirety of 2023 feuding on and off in the background, but somehow for the entire year they never had one singles match against each other. And when a singles match was finally booked between the two of them for the World's End pay-per-view at the end of the year, Keith Lee announced on the day of the pay-per-view through his Twitter that he had been working through an injury since Grand Slam 2022. He tweeted out the following, saying, "Today, I keep it very real with you guys. I've been working through an injury since Arthur Ashe Stadium 2022. It's been mostly well taken care of. Things have been worse since Final Battle. I am trying to get through today for you guys, but I cannot promise anything."
Yeah, when you fight through injury, man, naturally it becomes nagging to where you're basically forced to take some time off. I mean, granted the fact some people can push through it, but if it becomes nagging enough, like, your body's gonna let you know, like, nah, bro, you gotta sit down. You gotta sit down and you gotta think about your physical health at the end of the day. So for him to say this, via social media, like, it sucks, but you gotta do what you gotta do in order to have, like, good physical health, man. In order for you to keep doing what you do. Damn it, I keep getting tongue-tied. What the hell?
And thus that day, he was pulled from the pay-per-view, and fans were left extremely puzzled as to how on earth he was working through injuries for nearly a year and a half, and who was letting this happen. But yeah, since this, Keith
The
Lee
real
has
million
not
dollar
been
question.
seen or heard of in AEW since, and the extent of the injury remains unknown, with no time frame for a return or any sort of estimated time arrival date in sight. All that is known is that he had to undergo double surgery, so that would probably imply that he's going to be out for a good while. And in
Yeah, double surgery, yeah. That would leave the estimated date up in the air. Because when you're facing one surgery is enough, but going through a double surgery, that just lets you know that the extent of the injuries were more than what was being led on. And you did bring up an excellent point. Like, the real $1 million question is, he's been working through an injury for almost a year and a half, and no one seemed to think anything was wrong with that. Like, who allowed this to continue? Who really gave this the green light that he can work through injuries? That's the real $1 million question. But alas, we may never know.
terms of how his AEW run has been so far, I've got to say it's really been a roller coaster and both a hit and a miss. I think he's not really surpassed what he did in WWE. I think his run with Swerve in Our Glory was fun, but beyond that,
it was,
especially for pretty much all of 2023, nothing has really happened in his AEW run. And nothing has really been done in his AEW run that, like I said, has surpassed what he was doing in the WWE. And he's definitely not as good as an in-ring worker as he used to be, and a lot of that can obviously be put down to his health and injury, so it's understandable. But yeah, Keith Lee's run in AEW hasn't exactly lit the world on fire like some thought.
And I did say that at the top of the video, like, mountain injuries and facing long-going ailments like a heart inflammation that could be life-threatening, that could play a factor into you having the momentum in the ring, and it can halt it to a degree, especially when it's mounted on top of injury, ailment after ailment. It, like I said, the body will let you know when you need to sit down and just rest up, refresh yourself. Unfortunately, that's life.
It might when he first signed in 2022. The fact that that Swerve Strickland match just never happened is just such poor booking. They had the whole year to do it, and I'm interested to see what happens when Keith Lee does come back. I'm still a fan of Keith Lee, and I look forward to seeing him return, but I'm not super hopeful that it's going to be a super riveting run. I just at least hope they finally do him versus Swerve. Please just at least get that done finally. But yeah, man, who knows how these injuries will affect him. Injuries change the way that wrestlers work, and the fact he was working through an injury for a year and a half definitely doesn't help things either. And again, you just have to ask yourself, how on earth was he working through injuries for a year and a half? Why was that allowed to happen? But yeah, my hopes for Keith Lee when he does return, like I said, is to have that match with Swerve Strickland finally. And if there's a Meat Madness match in the future, like the one that was supposed to happen at Revolution this year, he would literally be perfect for a match like that. Throw him in there. I don't see him being a major player in AEW anymore like I did when he first signed, but I still think there's time left for Keith Lee to do some cool shit in AEW, such as the things I just mentioned. But the big question, would I say AEW are fumbling Keith Lee? I'm not sure. Whilst I don't think he's doing anything more than his WWE run, he's not the same wrestler he was when he first got super over in WWE. And there definitely is still time for AEW to turn it around with Keith Lee when he does return, and he's shown how good he can be during the Swerve in Our Glory run. 2023 just wasn't a good year for Keith Lee in AEW booking wise.
I can see why he would say that.
Part to the fact he was working whilst injured, which also, to be fair, AEW should not have had him doing, and he shouldn't have been working through injury to begin with. Overall, it's just been a bit of a clusterfuck of a run, and it's only been 2.5 years. Anyway though, that's it from me discussing the run of Keith Lee in AEW so far, the 2.5 years it's been so far. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy, and leave a comment down below what you think of Keith Lee's AEW run in comparison to his WWE run, and what videos that you want to see next. Subscribe, I'll see you all in the next video, goodbye, and keep on.
Yeah, I can honestly see why he would say that. Like, I mean, it wasn't really a fumble when he got to AEW. I just feel like they could have did his run a little bit better. I mean, granted the fact, going into AEW, he had all the steam in the world. I mean, the team up with Swerve Strickland, I enjoyed that to the fullest. And he even pointed out, like 2023, it was kind of like a seesaw effect. You know, you got some grand moments, you got some not so grand moments, and he did point out that, you know, him going through constant injuries and facing possible ailments that could possibly threaten his life, that played a role. And what doesn't make it any better, that he basically was working through an injury for a year and a half, and it didn't get noticed. Like, how wild is that? Like, you allow someone to work through an injury for a year and a half, and you did not bother to see anything wrong with that. That's what's really bugging me right now. But hopefully we does return. We can get that match with him and Swerve Strickland, because honestly, I feel like that match will be top tier. I mean, he may not have much left in it. Honestly, I would say, hopefully when he does return, we can get that Swerve Strickland Keith Lee match. Because honestly, I feel like that would be top tier. And true, he may not have much time left in his AEW run, but hopefully we can get some grand moments in the last moments in his run with the company. But I want to know what y'all thoughts are about this one. I mean, did AEW really fumble Keith Lee, or do y'all feel his run could have been better? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this one. And don't forget to tell your peoples across the globe. Come kick it with your boys. It's one good solid time. And you already know what to do next, man. Follow your boy on social media right over yonder. And this is your boy Blaze here saying check that deal. So now we'll see y'all in the next video. And I'm out.